gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami. Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Sangham Sharanam
Dumba Jumden de Dijin Shewa Da Jumba Yangdangwa Zobe Sanje Rikpa Dan Shamsu Tenpa Tewara Shewa Jigden Jemba Jebu Debe Galo Gyurwa Lana Meba Lada Menamje Tumba Sanje Jumden de Bejawa Jaja Doba La Chaze Lo Chodo Jazo Che Wo Tumba Chumden De Dejen Shewa Chajomba Yandaba Zove Zanje Rigba Da Shabzo Demba Dewara Sheba Jigden Kemba Jibu Dube Kalu Gyurwa Lana Meba Lada Menamje Tumba Sanje Chumden De Bejawa Shaja Tuba La Chaze Lo Chodo Jazo Che Wo Dumba Chumden De Dejen Shewa Chajomba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Rigba Dan Shabsu Temba Tewara Sheba Jigden Jemba Jebo Dube Galo Jorwa Lama Meba Lada Menamje Tumba Sanje Chumden De Pejawa Shaja Tuba La Chate Lo Chodo Jazo Che Ho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama La Janju Bado Dane Jazo Che Dage Chushe Jibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Drubara Sho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama La Janju Bado Dane Jazo Che Dage Chushe Jibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Drubara Sho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama La Chanju Bado Dane Jazo Che Dage Chushe Jibe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Drubara Sho. Good morning and welcome back to the new semester now. Welcome back and welcome to the new semester. I hope you all had a good break I didn't know how my semester break ended. It just went or ended in a blink of eye. So time flies. It was very recently we started the new semester for the year, and now we are already on to the second semester. Already half of year 21 has passed. Remember, when we think back, there was a time where we thought that 2021 is way too far away. Yet, we are already in the middle of 2021. So time flies. As the time flies, our life also moves towards the inevitable end. Just during this break time, how many people died? In India, how many died? In other parts of the world, and also in America, how many died? Were those deceased old or sick people? Not necessarily. Many young people have also died. And seemingly healthy people also died. So there is no fixed time. There's no sequence that old will die first and young will die later. There is also no such condition that the sickly people will die first. There are many cases where the caretaker goes before the sick person. So time flies. It is such an incredible thing that we are still alive, given the conditions, given the causes that are, that can give rise to our demise. Even the things that are supposed to support us, things that are supposed to sustain our life, can become a cause of our death. For instance, food is the main thing for us to sustain, to survive. But many people die due to eating, due to food consumption. And houses are supposed to facilitate our life. But look at Florida, the recent incidents where a condominium has collapsed. And at the moment, the death toll stands at, I think, 68, and there are still so many missing. So there is no guarantee that we will be alive tomorrow. I understand that we have so many obligations. We wanted to do so many things. Unfortunately, that does not take all this into consideration. Whether or not we have unfinished business, that will still come. Whether we have other plans to fulfill or not, it will knock at our door when the time comes. So imagine if this happens today, are we ready? Including myself, many of us are not ready. We are not prepared for our next journey. There is no confidence that we will obtain a good rebirth. For most of us, most likely, we will end up in the lower realms. At the moment, even a hot day, one hot day is too much for us. We complain, we grumble about the hot day. But imagine if we were born in hot hell, or as an animal, as a cockroach. How would that life be? Luckily, we are still alive. Every day is a blessing. Every day is an opportunity to prepare. So while we have this opportunity, while we are alive, we should really prepare ourselves. The worldly obligations are important, but not as important as preparing for the future life. Preparing for this life is a very short-term endeavor. We are only fulfilling a short-term goal. People who see or work for long-term goal is considered a wise person, even in conventional sense. So why not? When I give public talks to Tibetans, I always urge them to at least increase the number of hours on Dharma practices. At the moment, Tibetans are notoriously workaholic. Many do 2 shifts, and I don't know how they manage 2 shifts. They work so hard, they spend so much time at work. Only times they spend is during those special days. So I normally urge Tibetan people to at least increase the percentage. It is best if you can spend more time on Dharma practice. If not, at least increase the percentage. If you are presently committing only 5% of your time to Dharma, at least increase another 5% and gradually make it even. If we fail to do that, death will come. That's for sure. whether you are a practitioner, not practitioner, whether you are elderly, young, whether you are a monk, Rinpoche, no matter what your status is, death will come. So if we are not prepared, there will be so much regret. There will be so much fear. On the other hand, if we are able to prepare ourselves, we are confident, we are not afraid of our dying. At least we know, we are certain that we will achieve a good rebirth. So it's not too late for us. We still have time. And I think that's why you realize this and you are tuning into these Dharma talks. So the problem with us is that we realize the importance of Dharma practice, but somehow procrastination takes over. We fail to prioritize our Dharma practice. We always find something else other than Dharma practice to do. So it's a new beginning, new semester. This is where we set our mind. We make the determination that this semester I will dedicate as much time as possible in studying, contemplating, and most importantly, applying the understanding in our life, daily life. So let's make that determination. So how should we go about? There are many ways to make our life meaningful. From the Dharma point of view, ensuring a good rebirth is the start. That's where we draw a line, whether our practice becomes a Dharma practice or not. So one can practice to ensure or to ascertain a good rebirth in the future life. Any practices that is geared towards that is still a Dharma practice. But the problem is, if we are only focused on that, what would happen is we may be able to obtain a good rebirth in our next life, but in the next life, again there's no guarantee. There is no certainty that we will be born as human being or devas. There is still the danger of being born in lower realms. So, in order to avoid that, in order to escape from that uncertainty, is to strive for nirvana, emancipation from the cyclic existence. That's one way to go about. Dedicating every practice to achieve liberation. When we do that, when we successfully engage in that, of course there will come a time where we become arhats. We become free of samsaric sufferings. we will abide in what is called the state of liberation. But that itself is not enough. One has not really eradicated all the shortcomings. So in that sense, one's own goal is not fully achieved, and then let alone working for sentient beings. And more importantly, it is considered very selfish just to strive for one's own liberation, given that other sentient beings have been kind to us countless lives. So the alternate is to work for sentient beings. Just as we experience suffering, just as we undergo all kinds of unpleasant experiences, other sentient beings too experience that. And to ignore that is considered very selfish. So we strive to liberate other sentient beings. In order to do that, we need to achieve enlightenment first. We need to become Buddha first. Once we ourselves become Buddhas, then we have the capability to help all sentient beings. At the moment, we don't even have the ability to really liberate even one sentient being, let alone all sentient beings. So this is what is called the bodhicitta, where we aspire to achieve enlightenment, mainly to liberate other sentient beings. So that is the best pursuit or the best endeavor. In order to do that, we need to first understand the trainings, understand the practices that are involved. So one of such great practice is the practices of the 37 practices of Bodhisattvas. The instruction given by our Bodhisattva. Gyalse Tokme Zangpo is a renowned Bodhisattva. So there is, let me rephrase. So that's one way to pursue the path to enlightenment. So we have been discussing on this practices, these practices in the last semester, and we will continue. So in the last class, we discussed about 4 situations when we train ourselves in the Bodhisattva's path. There are so many challenges, and if we fail to apply specific antidotes to such circumstances, there is this danger of giving up our practice. We may get so discouraged. We may think that this is impossible. I'm not going to strive anymore. I'm done with it. That's so unfortunate, so sad. So that's why Gyalse Tokme Zangpo, from his own experience, listed specific situations and then specific instructions, what to do and what not to do. So in the last class, we talked about how a bodhisattva should take others' blame, criticism, betrayal, and derision into path. So today we discuss 4 more of such situations. The first 2 are what is called jorgunyi. So one of the 2 of the, I don't know. So one of the biggest hindrances, to practicing Dharma, to Dharma in Dharma practice, is known to be when we are so successful, when we are so powerful. And another situation is when we are so down, when everything seems crumbling. So when in such situation, there is a very strong likelihood that we may give up Dhamma practice. This we also know from our experience, isn't it? Sometimes people expect a quick result. And of course, this is driven by this instant gratification. I don't know, the culture. So they become so immersed in Dharma practice, and they do all kinds of practices for some time. And then when adversity befalls them, when things do not go as they expected, they completely lose faith in Dharma. And they said that there's no such thing as a karma. I have been practicing fervently. I have been doing so much purification practices. How come this is happening to me? This is what Buddha said is not true. And people give up Dhamma practice. I know of such people. So that is completely wrong understanding. First of all, when we talk about karma, it is not about just this life. We may be living an ethical life in this very life, but we definitely have done so much negative actions in our past, countless past life. So when we experience undesirable things, it is not because of our action in this very lifetime. It is the result of our past actions done in our past lives. This is important to understand. Many people say, how come such and such person, they do all the time negative actions, but they are seemingly very successful and doing very well and seemingly happy? First of all, we really don't know whether they are happy or not. Secondly, as I mentioned before, karma does not work in one lifetime. We have to factor in the actions in the past lives. And for a practitioner, when things upon their purification practices and all this, when things, when kind of a bad things happens, in a way, it's a good sign that your practice is working. But if you fail to have that insight, of that understanding, you will completely misinterpret. So that's why it is so important to know how to transform adversities into the path. So this is in Tibetan it's called Jorgu Nyi. Jorwa means when you become wealthy, when things are going so well for you. Then there is danger, there's one danger. And another situation is when we become weak and poor, when all the, what you call, undesirable things overwhelm us. There is this, in such situation, there is this danger, high risk of abandoning Dharma practice. So that's why here is about how to transform such situations into the path. Sowe Fengxing Dagdu Mei Nye Tsabjen Nedang Tuanji Tabjang Lar Zhogun Tikdu Tala Lenji Ching Shumba Meba Gyalse Lak Lenyins. So these are situations, though you lack what you need and are constantly disparaged. So either you are poor from the beginning, or you lose everything and you become poor, you become homeless. And when you become homeless and you are poor and you have nothing, what happens? It is a habit that people will disparage you, people will look down on you, people will call names, people will call you homeless, people will call you beggars. And not only that, on top of that, afflicted by dangerous sickness and spirits. And when you don't have enough resources, it is also possible that you may fall sick because of malnutrition, and also you don't have the resources. Even if you are sick, you don't have the resources to take care of yourself. So you are already poor, and then you are looked down by others, and then you are afflicted by dangerous sicknesses. And on top of that, there are also spirit harms. In such situation, what would Bodhisattvas do? As an ordinary person, we will be miserable. We will be cursing this and that. And then those who are practicing, there's a danger of abandoning one's faith. But Bodhisattvas, what they do is, without discouragement, take on the misdeeds and pain of all living beings. Instead of getting discouraged, they get encouraged, and they see that as an opportunity to practice. Remember, we discussed this before. Suffering, generally, suffering has no real qualities. But if we know how to look at the sufferings, there are so many qualities, so many benefits. Remember, we have discussed this before. Tungyen meba, nyejung me, shenyang tungyen yundeni, kyowe takwa sewar che, kowa bala nyingje je, tiglan zemshi kela kaas. When we undergo suffering, because we are in that kind of situation, it automatically brings down our ego, arrogance. When even a most arrogant person, when that person is sick and suffering, you don't that person display the arrogance and deceit. It somehow automatically becomes so humble and so quiet. So that's one benefit. So another benefit is koabala nyingjike. This is to strengthen our empathy for others. Now that we ourselves are undergoing that suffering, so we can relate to others. Our empathy will increase for others. And with this understanding of others' suffering, we will be able to increase our compassion for others. So in that sense, there is a benefit undergoing suffering. And the most important part is that Tiglan Zemshin Kela Ga. When we suffer, we will start asking questions. Why am I experiencing this misery? And those who subscribe to Buddhism, we will understand that it is the result of negative actions. So immediately what we get is that I should avoid, since I don't like this experience, I should avoid creating the causes and conditions. So which is to stop engaging in negative actions. And then the opposite of suffering is happiness. So that also comes from our causes and conditions, which are the virtuous actions. So, since we want happiness, it will propel us to strive in cultivating virtue. So that's one way to look at sickness and sufferings and all that. Here it says, Kebe tunye chunyani simni rabtu nyok meja. Those wise ones, when they befall, when sickness befall them, or undesirable adversity befall them, it says they sim kebe tunye chunyani simni rabtu nyok meja. No matter whatever pain they are enduring physically, but it never get their mind disturbed, because they understand the workings of karma. Nothing arises without karma, isn't it? So when these pleasant or unpleasant experience arises, they know the causes. And then they look at it as kenyin kewe kumayins. Tade tunye tam kenyin kewe shenyins. Tunye tikbe chakshinyins. Mega churdu mata angs. The Kadamba master says that. When we encounter adversity, we should view it as our spiritual teacher, the Dharma teacher, who remind us that if you don't want to experience suffering, then you should put an end to the causes and conditions. So which means we should refrain from committing negative actions. Likewise, if we want to be free from these sufferings, we need to cultivate the causes and conditions, which are the virtue. When we experience, the Kadamba masters look at it as a broom that sweeps away our negative karma. Remember, I discussed this before. There are two ways to exhaust negative karma. One way is through purification. We engage in purification practices, and then that way we can purify or eradicate all that past karma, negative karma. The other way is to experience the result. So when we are undergoing suffering, obviously we didn't purify that. So since it's already happened, one way is, okay, this is good. That's one way to eradicate, eliminate the negative karma. So Kadamba masters view these sufferings as a broom that sweeps away our negative actions. Therefore, it's a mega churdu madangs. Do not see it as something negative and bad. When this happens, it is, in a way, it is good. Tade tunye tamyoja ngarje tunye sejene chime tuna te tunye gawa gomshi angs. Kadamba masters, they rejoice when they suffer. When unpleasant events happen to them, instead of feeling so depressed and sad about it, they rejoice. Because this way one can clear the past negative karma, and it is now looking, chime tuna tejurjis. So now that you are exhausting all the negative karma, so there is high likelihood that you will experience more pleasant experiences. Though you lack what you need and are constantly disparaged, afflicted by dangerous sickness and spirits, without discouragement, take on the misdeeds and pain of all living beings. So as a Bodhisattva practitioner, we should engage in the practice of Tonglen here. Now that you understand how suffering makes us miserable, and then you also understand that just like us, other sentient beings are also undergoing such experiences. It is not just only us. Sometimes when we encounter difficulties, we think that we are the only one who is undergoing such experiences. But that is not the case. So through our own experience, now we can relate, now we can empathize with others. And then that will help us to strengthen our compassion for others. And with that compassion, we take upon others' suffering. Since I'm already suffering, let my suffering represent the sufferings that others are going to experience. And whatever I'm experiencing, may I take upon all the sufferings of other sentient beings who are going to experience similar misery. So you see, if we are able to do that, there is meaning in our suffering. We are able to ascribe meaning to the pain and torture we are going through. Maybe it's not really a torture, because torture is something to do with the mind. So your body, physically we feel the pain, but mentally we are kind of elated with joy that we are able to ascribe meaning to our suffering. How wonderful is that? Since there's no, since we cannot really, since we cannot not experience suffering because it is part and parcel of our life, our existence. So when we encounter this, if we're able to think that way, that kind of lifts our mind. Even though externally we are suffering, but internally there is joy. And if we are able to do that, the more you encounter this kind of experience, instead of discouraging us from in Dharma practice, it will encourage us, it will strengthen our devotion, it will strengthen our commitment. So that's what Bodhisattvas has been doing, and that's what we should also do. That's what Gyalse Tokme Zangpo is urging us to do. So that was taking poverty into the path. So now transforming wealth into the path. As I mentioned earlier, another hindrance is when we become very powerful, when we become very wealthy, when we become very famous. What will happen is, when we become very famous and very wealthy, when things are going so well, somehow, we get so proud, we become arrogant, and then we become reckless. We started to look down on others. If there are anybody who are equal to us, there is this sense of competition arises, jealousy arises. Jealousy, those who are above us, those who are superior to us, then jealousy arises. So there is this danger. So that's why it says, in such situation, what we should do is that nyambar takshin romang chiwe tu namdo puyi nota top jurjang sibe benjur nyingbo me signe kengba meba kese nga genyins. Though you become famous and many bow to you, so these are the situations where you become so famous that everybody is bowing to you. Everybody is showing so much appreciation, so much what is that, adulation and so much respect. That's one situation. When you become so famous, you think that there's nobody above me. I am respected by all. I have this and that knowledge. So that fuels our ego, and then we became reckless. And then we engage in all kinds of negative actions which are contrary to Bodhisattva's practices. And another situation is when you gain riches equal to Vaishavana. So this is one, Vaishavana is one of the well deities. When you gain riches equal to Vaishavana, then yeah, nothing can compete in terms of your wealth. I remember back in monastery, there was one disciplinarian. He was very good with his speech. So when he gives scoldings, it's quite interesting. We kind of enjoy, because the things that he says are very funny and very interesting. So one time he says that he was scolding monks for being very attached to all the worldly things, those glitters, and some kind of show of a bit. So he says that, you think that you have so much, you are so wealthy, so much wealth, so much money. He says, whatever whatever wealth you have, if you combine all that together, it cannot even equal the one boot of Vaishavana. So that's quite funny. In a way, it is true. So anyway, here another incident where we became another situation where it can hinder our practice, Dharma practices, when we became so rich. So in such situations, what we should do, he says that, see that worldly fortune is without essence. Do not be conceited. This is the practice of Bodhisattva. So the main reason is because you have this fame and wealth, your ego became bloated, elated. You get this, what do you call it? You became too proud. You became so conceited. You became arrogant. When this happens, then we will engage in all kinds of misdeeds. And then at one point, we may feel that, oh, I don't need to practice. Or these Bodhisattvas trainings are too hard for me. After all, I have all this. I am famous. I have wealth. So I don't need this practice. That happens. So to counter such situations, it says that, see that worldly fortune is without essence. Yeah. So the example given in the commentary is like, so when we see all these worldly kind of what you call that, glitters, we should look at it as what you call unstable. Fame and wealth is not stable. Today you can be a billionaire, but tomorrow you can be a pauper. You can be a homeless. Our wealth can diminish in an instant, isn't it? Remember, few weeks ago I showed you a Chinese billionaire who became a king, who lost everything overnight. And then fame, power, all this. You can be so powerful today, but tomorrow you are an ordinary person. You can be the president of America today, but tomorrow you are an ordinary citizen. You are nobody. One time you wields the power of a whole world, but the next day nobody listens to you. So all this is a satsi sitik tarmitemba. When a dew, it is like a dew on the blade of grass. A little nudge can make it disappear. It is like a essenceless as a bubble, water bubble. Water bubble from the distance, it looks like there is something worthwhile there. But when you touch it, poops, nothing there. Then, whatever wealth, fame, power, when death comes, we have to part with them. We cannot bring with us. Not only we can bring with us, it cannot even help us at all. We leave behind. We worked so hard. And then it's also a source of suffering because of all that wealth and fame. In order to preserve that, we go through so much hardship. Remember, I showed you those statistics where celebrities, how many committed suicides? Because they are unable to really sustain that fame. They are undergoing so much pressure. And then millionaires. I always wonder who sleeps better, a simple monk in a monastery and a billionaire. They have been constantly watchful of their stocks or whatever source of wealth they have. So much worry. The more you have, the greater tension, anxiety, and worry it brings. And another example is what is called the Cheme Kangzik. It's like the sand castle. No essence, nothing there. It does not help the future life, but it causes so much trouble. So that's how, as a Bodhisattva practitioner, as a Mahayana practitioner, one who is pursuing the Buddhahood, these situations are hindrance. So when we encounter this, that's how we should think about how impermanent they are, how essenceless they are, and then how useless they are when the time, when we need it the most. Now that this following two verses are what is called taking or transforming, in Tibetan we call it chakdang, attachment and anger, transforming anger and attachment into path. Rangi shedan tawo ma tu na chiru tawo tu shin pewa jur, dejir chamda nyingji mabungi rangyu duwa gyase la yin. While the enemy of your own anger is unsubdued, though you may conquer external force, they will only increase. Therefore, with the militia of love and compassion, subdue your own mind. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. For us, our foe, our enemy, is the physical person, isn't it? The external things. One who gives us harm, physical harm, or verbal abuse. We see them as our enemies. But Bodhisattvas, they are not the enemy. The real enemy is our internal afflictions, anger and afflictions that reside within us. So as long as we are unable to subdue afflictive emotions such as anger, of course here we are talking about anger, as long as we are unable to subdue our own anger, even if we are able to conquer our external force, it will not end there. It will create more enemies. The one that we have destroyed will be replaced by another person. For example, let's say if I had an issue with someone and I consider that as my enemy, and after so much planning and plotting, if I were able to eliminate that person, will my problem end there? No, the person will have families. The son, the brothers, they will come back. Even though that person is gone, my enemy is gone, but new enemy will appear. The sons, the brothers, they will now become my enemy. So there's no end. Sorry, I have somebody at the door. Hello? Hello. 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 Kamanga guna nga danda zinda tsaro yu. Zinda tsaso na nge di chaw. Where are we? So maybe we stop here and then we can continue in next class. So let's dedicate our merits. Thagi jinyi zabe gyawa de tendan dowa kunla kangben dan kebara chizun losan tawa ye tembe nyingbu ringdu seche sho. Jambe bawe jedara kemba dan kundu sambo teyan tejendo deda kungi jesu talo je gyawa deda tamje Rabdo ngo duzun shekbe gyawa tamje ji ngowa kanla chodo ngaba de tagi kewe tsawa digwenja zambo joje rabdo ngo war gis. Thank you.